Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Alexis. I'm the founder of Fanfaire, and today we are learning the alternate duplet technique. If you plan to build the rainbow with us, I have prepared a bunch of balloons. You can see my living room down here is a huge mess, but I'll tell you what I've prepared. I have three pairs essentially. I'm not sure if any of you did this, but I know a couple of people joining have prepared. So this is the largest one. This is the second largest. So this is probably 10 inches, 9 inches, 8, 7, 6, 5 on the original recipe. So you can see that there is a big difference from my smallest to my largest. Okay, it's really hard to show this like in one camera. Do you see the difference here? So it'll stack like this essentially, right? All of them together in rainbow. So the recipe called for a half an inch difference. You can totally be flexible with how big you want to make it. I've made this once before, and I would say that I am a total beginner here. I got the recipe from Alyssa. She will be teaching this. She's running a tad behind. There was an accident from an install she did earlier. So she'll be on in a couple minutes, but you essentially want to have 30 pairs of this, which as I'm building it, I'm like, wow, this really looks like a lot of pairs. And that is because half of these balloons will hide behind. So you're only actually seeing half of the balloon. So it's kind of like double thick, if you will. And so they'll stack all nicely together and you'll see each color. You'll only see 15 of that color in the rainbow. So while Alyssa's joining, I also wanted to share if anybody is a design studio user, I just wanted to show you that we've added some new cool stuff to the design studio. Does anybody here use LED letters or numbers?
Me, Katie.
Katie!
Yes.
Yay! Okay. Okay. So you're who I added this for actually. Okay. So I'm gonna So this is the design studio. So many windows open. And my screen is huge. So let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So as you can see, there's a lot of things in here. We've kind of like reorganized this a little bit to be a little bit prettier. So aesthetically, it's like a little bit nicer when you come in. Things are organized like um by similar thing right next to it in a nice, beautiful rainbow palette. So it's easier to find things. So that I'm really excited about. And then, as I just mentioned, I added a ton of florals. If there are things that you want in there, in the main catalog, I can load them in. Obviously, you can load in your own stuff, but I've added a ton of beautiful florals. A lot of these can be found at Michael's, and if you buy online, they're even cheaper. So I'll just throw that out there. And then I added these LED numbers and letters. And so right now they're sorted by color alphabetically. And then you can go and search, like if I wanted to have all of like I don't know, the blues or whatever, I could do it like that. But there are a bunch of colors in here. If you need more colors, let me know. I've already added these in here. So like you can see that you can just, I don't know, so I don't know what we would write. Uh, you know, whatever you're gonna write. I would just add the two and then I would um, just downsize them both. And I'm downsizing everything, but you downsize them together and then move them so then they're all identical and they have a nice glow around them. Let's see. And that's kind of it. If you have any other things that you want in there, I did add in numbers and letters too. And I added in those Greek letters. So tons of options in there. I recommend if you do not have these LED letters that you partner up with somebody like LED Marquee in your local market. And so call them up, ask them what their pricing is. You can put it in your store for a little bit of markup and then have partner with them to source them. Um, so yeah, any questions so far? So I have a couple things in the chat. You use them, but you don't have a full set. Okay, well, you should definitely you could stage things in there that are letters that you have. So maybe you have a limited set of letters, so you could stage things already in there like that. Um, so yeah.
That
Okay.
looks awesome. Thank you.
Yay! Good. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, cool. Any other questions about what we're about to do? Any questions about Fanfare in general? Okay. Who here brought balloons ready to make the rainbow? Anybody? Has anybody made this rainbow before or used the alternate duplet technique?
I haven't used it before, but I do have the stuff prepped for it.
Awesome. Good. Okay, what colors did you choose?
Just the regular
Plastic
rainbow.
grape. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, I hope you'll turn your camera at the end and show us what it looks like. Um, has anyone like, I've nailed this technique, but I just want to like come to see if there are any tips and tricks that I missed? No experts in the room? Dominique, you're good at this. I know you're good at this.
I've done it a couple of times. I don't think I really, yeah, I did. Wait, I'm trying to remember. The first time I did it, it wasn't too shabby. It was pretty cool, but that was back in my days when I wasn't using a sizer. So I just eyeball things. So I'm pretty sure if I did it again, I probably could nail it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was so years ago, someone asked me to make one of these, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I guess we could try to make it. We did not have a sizer. We were eyeballing each balloon, and it was so we weaved it together via watching a YouTube video, and the whole display. I don't know if I strung it too tight or whatever. That's why I'm hoping Alyssa's going to give me all these great tips. But it was curling backwards, and so we had it ready to push onto a wall. Right, we were just going to hang it on a wall in front of a baby chair for a baby's first birthday, and it was like curling backwards, which was a total nightmare. So this time I'm ready to figure out the weaving technique so that it does not curl. Part of that could be incorrect sizing. So far on my trial this time, I think my first error was I should have started with the smallest balloon, and we'll validate that when Alyssa comes on, but I started with the largest balloon, which was probably a mistake because by the time I got to the smaller ones, I was planning to use a 5-inch for the last color, and I'm like, that is going to be too small, so I ended up using 11 inches for the entire rainbow. Probably not the worst thing. It's probably just gonna be a bit bigger, but yeah. So Alyssa is here. Alyssa, we're so glad you made it safe to your back to your shop. Um, Thanks for being here today. We have a nice little group here. Most people have maybe attempted to do this. A couple people have prepped stuff to hands-on participate. So we have Erica, myself. Anybody else has prepped materials for today? And that's totally okay. Okay. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. All right. So let's see in the chat. Oh, you didn't have a time to prep. That's all good. All good. So obviously this recording will be saved. I'll probably cut out some of this earlier chatter. So it's just down to the meat of it. So when you do go back to reference the video, it'll go right into it. I actually used the heart technique yesterday that we learned a couple weeks ago. So I went back and referred to the recipe in the video, and it was totally helpful because I completely forgot. All right, Alyssa. Okay, you're like totally out of breath. You made it. Woo! Okay. I'm gonna pin you as the spotlight. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Alyssa. I own NWI Party and Party Lane in the Chicagoland area. And thank you so much for your patience today. There was an accident on the road that I couldn't get around, and sometimes that happens. We all know how that is. Okay, so we're going to be building the rainbow. I heard that a few of you have already worked on this. I do have it mostly prepped. So what we'll be doing is the last row, and I'm going to be giving you some tips on how I inflate how I get to my measurements. So if this recipe is too big for you, how you could find out approximately how big you want to make it by sizing down. Okay, so first, anytime that we're working with alternate duplet, sizing is really, really important to make sure that we are at the correct sizes. I did, I'm working on the last row. Essentially, when you're looking at the rainbow, you want to start, the tighter that you want the curve to be, the more of the difference between the two sizes. So I usually start my inner curve to be with at least a 1 inch difference between them. So I'll do it either 4 and 5, or else sometimes even 3.5 and 4.5, or else 4.5 and 5.5. The rainbow that I'm making is for a job this weekend, and she did want it to be pretty substantial because we're going to be going behind a high chair. So I had put into the recipe to size everything at 4.5 and 5.5 for our first rows. The other thing is that if you have a machine that measures, then if you end up getting, what I do to make it faster and to make it a little bit more, just a little bit quicker for me, is I'll blow up. So our last one was at 9, and this one is actually exactly at 9, but I'll find my measurement on my machine that gets me right there with the 1/2 inch difference. So what I did is I programmed my machine. I worked with it to figure out where is my 8 inch, where is my 9 inch, and then I programmed my machine to be set to that. So this way, going around it, you can see that when I slide through to measure, I'm at exactly 9 inches. So that was something that I did on purpose. This is the inflator that you get from All American Balloons. They have 2 different pink pumps, and this one does double stuffing. What I like about it is that you could increase and decrease pressure. So, and there's a few different tips, so it makes it really easy to find a measurement for it. Okay, then when you're tying anything that's sculptural, we want to make sure that it's super tight. So I'm not just going to tie the next tight, but see how I'm crossing over with the 2? So you want to have that cross and then pull, and then this is going to be one set of a duplet. Some people call it a doublet. I call it a duplet. I don't think it matters what you call it as long as we are all talking the same terms. I'm going to do 2 more just because I left 3 to demonstrate. We're going to squish, pull over, go around once, go around twice. And let's do our last one. I think I blew away a balloon or I miscounted. Either way. Get one more.
Alyssa, for people who are using a manual sizer like you have on the table there, would you recommend starting with the smallest or the largest, or it really doesn't matter? Like, I feel like I started on the larger end, and then as I got to the smaller one, I'm like, oh, I really, because I manually size them. Towards the end, I thought my smallest one was like a bit big. Like it would have been too small to use the 5 inch balloon, so I ended up using an 11 inch.
Can use an 11 inch. I mean, I did mine with 5 inch, but it just really, as long as your sizer is accurate, I do prefer the sliding sizer or the wood sizer to, I have a fabric sizer, like the box that we sometimes take with us if we're going on a job. What I find is, so let's compare it to like our 9 on this is not the same because it's stretched out over time. So you could see like, see how the sizing is different? Like that's supposed to be a 9 inch, but on here it ends up being, this is exactly a 9 inch. Sorry, the way that I measure it too, let's overinflate one. If I'm manually sizing, I let go till it's just touching the edges.
Okay.
So that's how I'm going to get it. And then I'm going to tie them together. And I would do one. That's the reason that it's for something like this. If you have a timed machine, you either need to do all of these like this, tie it off, and then do all of your others and tie it to it. Or if you have a time machine that say doesn't do two of them the same, then what you could do is like do the one on your manual machine and then do the second on your tied machine. So that way you could save the time by tying them directly together. So that's how I used to do it before I had invested in the machine. Okay, let's go over to where I have these together. We're going to take a little journey. Okay. And I'm going to work on the floor because it's going to be a little bit easier for this.
Okay.
So you can see that I do start with my small ones. And I always think these look like little caterpillars because it reminds me of like those roly-polies or a caterpillar. But when you're coming up with your pattern, it's going to be front facing like this. So what you're not seeing is that you have double balloons on it. So that's a mistake that people sometimes make when they're trying to figure out how many balloons they need for the pattern is they just count out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, they'll count to 15 and be like, I need 15, but you don't need 15. You need to have, this is 30 sets that are going to be stacked on top of each other in order to create this. You can put it together using either Dafron or elastic. I do a ribboned 260 for all of it. I also, you can use rubber bands in order to connect your rows. I don't like rubber bands either. Also, I didn't choose these colors. I don't really love them. I might try to convince her to change her inside color. So you can see that this row is bigger than this row, but what you want to be careful of when you're sizing it, so I go inch difference and then I went up to a half an inch. But you just really want to look, see how it fits snugly within it. So with all the sizing, because otherwise what's going to happen is your sizing is going to be off. So that's, if you're trying to use a pattern that's not yours, that's what I look for when I'm sizing it, is to go up either the half an inch or an inch or the 3/4 of an inch. Where do I need to be? I'm looking at how do the two nestle together after I build the first row before I move on to my third one. So that way, if I need to change anything, all of my sizing is enough. Does that make sense?
Before you move on from that first row that you made,
Yeah.
are there other techniques that you can apply that to? You mentioned a caterpillar. Like, what else would you use that, that row right there to
You can see
create?
that this is, we're almost a full circle. Like I would just need a couple more to complete it in order to make a complete circle. If we do that, maybe like 2 or 3 more rows, then you have like a tire that you could use. You'd have, you could do it to make an Olympic ring. You could do it to make a cupcake. You could do it to make a pot. You could do anything that's round in nature. Is you're going to just be able to complete the circle in order to create that. Okay, so that was a good question. Any other questions about that? Okay. So when I use my 260s, if you get little tiny air bubbles in it, then it's going to make it weaker and it's going to pop. So first I ribbon my 260, which is just you start from the top and you press and you squeeze all the air out and then tie it at the end. And this just makes it so it's stronger and it's less likely to tear on you when you're working with it. You can see that now it's completely flat compared to this one. And then I'm going to do 2 of those together.
And we won't see these, right? So it doesn't really matter what color I use.
No, it doesn't matter. Well, you could kind of see it a little bit when you link the rows together. Okay. Now I have the two of them tied together. So let's start how we do this. I'm going to throw the rest of these on the ground really quick. And I do feel like the last color pull it together, but I think that I want to do like a white or a cream or something as one of those for my first row to make it look just, I don't know, it doesn't look exactly right to me. So I'll probably show it to my client and then make a suggestion on changing it if she wants to, if she's not totally happy. This is something that I'm building for Saturday. You can make it plenty in advance if you use good product. Okay. So my first part, I'm going to take, I'm just going to tie it around the neck.
And you're gonna start with so you did the other rows first, but would you always start with the smallest set first or the larger ones?
I always start smallest first, but that's just how I always just like to start with the inside. The reason why is because I want to make sure that my curve is going to be as tight as I want it. If you start with the outside, then it's hard to judge what your curve is going to be on the inside.
Okay. And then is two of these flattened 260s enough?
Yes, this will be plenty because it's, think about, so this is 5 foot that I have. So we might need one more, but it shouldn't be a problem because on this row it was 2 and you could see how much I have left over.
Okay.
Even though this row will be a little bit longer. And I'll just shine this before it goes out. I shine here, I don't shine on site. Okay, can you see what I'm doing or should I lower this?
Just lower it just a tad.
Okay. The first row I was able to do on the table. These I'm doing on the floor just because it's so big. It's not going to fit on the table. So you have your first row. And then you're going to take the second and you're literally just crossing it. And then we're going to weave around both of them to lock it and then come up. And what we're essentially going to be doing is just repeating that and crisscrossing them as we go. The first one I go around both, but the rest of them, make sure that you pull it super tight. You don't want to have it loose at all. I'm just going to go around the neck of the next row.
Okay, hold on. When you say you're crisscrossing it, are you trying to keep one color on one side and the other color on the other side?
Yeah, so you're crisscrossing at the bottom is the 2 colors and then the top is the 2 colors. So we're crossing to the left of the knot. And then you're going to cross to the right of the knot. And again, just pull and then grab up. So you can see that when you're making it, and we have a tiny curve, but all of my gold dust are at this side and all of my green are on this side. And if it's not pulled tight enough, then you're going to have gaps. And also if if you have a color in the wrong place, say that I cross 2 the same direction, see, you end up with the green popping forward. So your other color is going to come forward. So that's going to show you that you made the mistake. So instead I want to go to the other direction, pull, and pull up. Mistakes that I see is usually that it's either sizing errors or else it's just not pulled tight enough. It's just getting it tight. And that's one of the reasons I think that rubber band is always a mistake.
Sorry, you could also do this with rubber bands?
You can't do this part, but you could do the next part connecting it with rubber band.
Okay. Okay, Erica, how is yours coming along?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, I was on the other side of my studio wrapping them.
Okay, all good.
Yeah, and it's really just the repetition. Making sure it's tight enough.
I really can't tell how mine is going so far.
And I'm not even to the end of my first, look, I'm only halfway, like up to the end of my first 260. Here's where my knot is. So we have a long way to go with that in terms of how tight you should be pulling it. And I did still get a rip. Okay, so if you get a rip, because you sometimes will have a small hole, I'm just going to actually take it and retie it.
A rip in your 260?
Yeah, it ripped, but that's okay. Sometimes they tear because you just have, well, first, I give so much, I give a lot of pressure because I want it to be so tight. I want like the 2-year-old who's at the party to be able to run up to it, pick it up, and shake it, and it's still going to stay together.
I don't know how consistent I am between going back and forth, but I'm wrapping it around the row below.
That's just practice. The more you make, the more consistent you get with anything. And I'm almost there. And you could do like those little tiny rainbows on murals, and those I would do it maybe like 2 inches or 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, and then go up to like 6 and 7. Okay, so I'm at the end. And then for my end one, I'm just going to figure 8 around. And then I'm going to tie it off to one of the necks of the balloon. And then I always just count to make sure that I didn't make a counting error. And you could see, did you notice how it was like kind of, it had moved out of place? All I did was just squish it in. Okay, so I'm going to count it. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did miscount. That's crazy. It's so weird. I thought I counted all my balloons out ahead of time. 14. Okay, so I'm short one row. So I'm going to make one more row really quick. And that's why you count it 100 times. I count it during, I count it before, I count it after. Just make sure I didn't make a mistake there. Oh, because it's laying on the floor. Look. I two that are missing were hiding.
So I'm either not going tight enough or I made my balloons really big, but I have to add a third 260 to get all these balloons in here.
And you're not tight enough.
It feels so tight though, man.
Yeah, it really needs to be. Otherwise, it's not going to stay together with the structure because it really doesn't move at all. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to attaching the rows.
Okay.
When I attach the rows, I actually work from the, so when I inflate, I work from the inside out. When I attach, I work from the outside in. I don't know why. It's just the way I have always done it. This one, for my outside, I'm actually going to start with 3 but we might just need to. You could always add one on though. I'm going to ribbon it. I'm going to tell you how to do it with rubber bands if you were to take that method, even though I don't recommend it. But some people prefer it. Two, and then my third one. Right, four. Before I was really close to the knot, so I probably, when I tied it in, left a little bit of air in there is what happened. Okay. So if you're going to do this with rubber bands, could everybody see me okay?
Yep.
Okay. You're going to line up your 2 rows so that the first one is nestled. If I was doing rubber bands, I would loop around this balloon and this balloon. So I would go around both these knots, and then I would go on an angle to these knots. Then I work on the V to where then I'm going to start with this balloon and come up this way. So I'm going to do a rubber band this way, a rubber band this way on every other one is how I'm going to do those.
Okay, wait. So why are you going to the outside green?
I go to the outside one on my first one, and then I work from the middle.
Oh, and then you're all in the middle. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So just because I like to make sure that all the pressure isn't on the knot of this one, I like to go around the outside, then around the inside, then around both of those, and then I'll go around just the 2 interior balloons for it. If I'm using a 260, I'm not going to tie it to the neck of the balloon. Could you see how taut this is? I think it's hard to see, but I'm going to tie it and set it to the neck. You could hear it's like a guitar string. I'm going to tie it to my 260. And I'm just going to focus, like one of the secrets that you'll find is, sometimes you'll get that dead balloon when you're working. And it's because you have too much pressure on the neck. So I don't go around the next of the balloon. I am constantly going to be looking for my 260 ribbon. Again, you can hear it in there, how just taut it is. That's what I'm going to be going around. So I'm not going around the next of the balloons. I'm going around that center 260. So I'm taking, I don't know how well you can see this. Here's my gold, my 2, like it's my little, I have the crack between the 2. I'm going to nestle this one and then pull it taut. Go around the 260. Should have wrapped it around my hand, but sometimes I lose feeling in my fingers. Now we're pulling it nice and snug. And I really want to make sure with my first 2, do you see how it's lined up exactly in there? You want to make sure that it's lined up correctly, because if you start out and these are like off like that, then the whole thing is going to look wonky. So you want to make sure that you're really like nestled like right in between for each of these as you go along. So then I'm starting here, going in between there, and then again I'm coming up on an angle, going around my 260, pulling with tension, and I'm going to skip because I'm working on an angle and it's just as tight. Pull it through, go around my 260. I'm pushing to make sure that these are nestling. And then again, coming up on an angle, going around my 260. So you just keep on repeating it. And you can see that I've only gone twice and I'm already about 6 out because I'm able to skip a couple of rows because I'm going on an angle. And then we just keep on repeating this process. The best thing that I could say with this is it's practice, practice, practice. My first rainbow was so wonky. It was crazy. And again, I'm pulling in super snug, making sure that these are lined up. Again, press in, make sure that I'm snugly in between. Started in on that one. I think one off. And now I've come to my end.
Okay, can we pause here for some troubleshooting? Anyone else, Erica, are you having any issues? Or does yours look just like that?
I'm going to show you where I made a mistake too. Do you see it on my end? How that end hangs over?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So when I started it in one row too many instead of starting it here.
Uh-huh.
But you see how tight it is and how it's snug in between every single one. So I'm not going to correct it just because I am making a full rainbow. And also, I'm doing organic clouds on the end. So I'm going to be able to like butt my next piece up to it and have it be okay. And then also, if you do have something like this, you could either just shorten it by 2 rows or you could leave it on. And then once you put on your organic cloud, no one's going to see this. So, but what I'll want to be careful of is when I start, I don't want my rainbow to continue to come this way, so I'll do my next row over one. Does everyone
Okay,
do?
I tied this pretty darn tight.
Yeah.
And obviously you said with just 2, it's not tight enough. Mine does not look like yours. Yours looks like perfection. And mine is kind of like squeezing in spots. Like, can you see that I have this? It's like, seems to be a lot of pressure in here.
It's probably that you used uneven tension. So having the tension be even when you're pulling, and that's why, again, I think it's easier because are you working on the floor?
I was kind of working on my lap.
Yeah, if you're working on your lap, then your lap is a little bit lopsided. So at least my lap's a little bit lopsided. So it's not going to be as firm and straight because it really is just giving that extra tug every single time you come through to make sure that your tension is the same. And then making sure as I go, I'm lining them up with every single row. I'm not just zigzagging. Every time I go through, I'm making sure that this is lined up exactly where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So, because if you don't take that extra second to line everything up, then that's what you're going to get. And it could also be that you didn't have even tension when you were stringing your duplet, because remember, I used 2 and you used 3. So it might have been a little bit looser. And if that part is looser, but then you're still pulling tight, then you're actually going to make it wonky because there's more stretch in the 260. So you're going to be pulling it down. So you're going to be like, instead of being pulling it into shape, you're like creating little tiny V's where you have that looseness.
Okay.
That's also one of the reasons that whenever I work on something like this, or even say that you're doing a duplet wall, I like to have only one person string it, because if you have multiple people string it, then it never looks the same because everybody has different tension. And it really is practice to make sure that you have that consistent tension. So that way it always looks the same and you resolve some of those problems.
Okay. Knowing how this looks right now, should I cut the 260 and start over?
I would start over if it was me.
Okay.
My
Okay.
first one took me, like I started over on them a couple times because it really does take a minute to get the hang of it. So don't, I don't, I'm sure that there's people out there who've done a perfect rainbow their first time. I don't know any of them. So
Okay.
I know a lot of people. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next row. And it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to turn around so I'm not showing y'all my backside. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing where I'm going to start at the 260, tie it. But this time I'm just nestling over one to kind of resolve that problem of so that it'll be like in, out instead of consistently moving into the same direction. I'm actually going to go around and come over and up. And I only did two 260s for this row. Also, if it's really tight, you shouldn't be able to see your 260 or your mechanics in between. If it's looser, you're going to see those mechanics. Okay. So we have the same thing. We're going to go up around. First ones are always the hardest because that's where you have the most 260 to fight with. And again, I'm going to make sure that I'm nestled into the correct spot and go around the 260. Instead of going around the neck of the balloon. You can see that I moved the balloons out of the way to get to where I want to pull. It might be slightly short with just two. So I didn't make it. I ended up being about just a tiny bit short. So I'm going to tie this one off right there. And I could see where I'm too short because I didn't pull as tight because I have more of a gap in this one. So I'm going to start with the half that I have. And whenever I add one, if you're not tying it to the end, I overlap a little bit. So I'm starting back. So my other one is right here. I'm just doubling up in that area. So crazy pants, that's hilarious. I still ended up being over a little bit. And I'm going to tie it off to the neck of the balloon. Okay, so you can see right here that I lost my pattern a little bit. So what I need to do is just pull that balloon forward. And now we're just exactly where we need to be. where I started, see how it looks clean? So this is my side that the cloud will go on. So it'll go be this way, or if you want it to go this way, be this way, because that would be the bottom. Okay, does anybody have a question? Or what questions do you have?
Will you just kind of hide that ending detail that kind of got off a little bit in the clouds?
Yeah, and here, I was able to, if you look at it, you saw how my bottom was off. Sometimes you need to fix it from both sides. It needs to look like, I would say it needs to look like the caterpillar on the bottom. So if it looks like the caterpillar, then you're going to be okay. So yeah, I'll just do, like, this will be my side that my cloud is on. So let me change. So I left my extra 260 on here after I had strung those other rows, because then I'll use that to attach my clouds as well.
Nice.
And then you could either put this up with like H tape, or you could stand it on a frame, or you could put it onto an arch, or you could set it up. I've done it on like the arch walls. It's so like it shouldn't, since it's pretty steady. It's not really moving around, which means that my headphones just died. Can you hear me?
Yep. So how big is that? Is that 6 feet wide?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Is that
Okay.
6 feet wide?
I'm gonna turn up my volume. I don't charge your headphones in a charger that like powers off. I accidentally had it connected to my computer, so it went into sleep mode, so they didn't charge last night.
Oh, good. So is that 6 feet wide, Alyssa?
It's like you'll be able to do an H tape on the back and then stick it with a hook, and it's going to stay because the shape stays if it's tight enough. Like if it's tight enough, you don't need to worry about it unless it's outdoors for losing its shape. Okay, does anybody have any other questions on this? Let's just open it up to questions.
Yeah. So is that 6 feet wide?
I am.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Is that 6 feet wide?
Wide?
Yeah.
So I'm 4 foot wide, and then my length is about 7 and.
Okay. And how do you go about pricing something like this? If it's 4 feet, if it's 6 feet, if it's 8 feet, obviously the labor is the bulk of the cost here. So are you just kind of calculating out your labor and stuff with this, or?
So I charge a little bit more for rainbows just because there's not a lot of people who could do them in this area. So I'm able to get a higher price. And I look at it as being a stylized balloon. And for me, anything that's like a stylized balloon decor, in airfill, I'm usually charging between $3 and $5. So I usually do these at $3 though. So, but for like this, like for something like this, I'm charging like $3.50 for it for this size with the 2 like organic poof clouds, depending upon how much they want. I mean, for the full arch that we did, we charged $800 for it, and it's double this with 2 clouds. So, and they do have some other things too, that we're working into it also. So I think that it's partly what's your perceived, yeah. What's your time? What's your labor? What's your perceived value? Because for me, I'm not really taking my time to do it because I could whip them out pretty quickly. But
Okay.
the thing is that not everyone on my team could whip it out pretty quickly. And other people who we're comparing to, it might take them 3 hours, like 3 more hours to make it than it takes me. So I might as well price it as if it took me 4 hours to make than if it took me an hour and a half to make. So,
This might take me all day to make this.
okay, well, there you go. Then it's $1,000.
Um, as far as other technique, I know that this weaving is the main technique. Would you ever consider twisting this neck to neck?
No.
Never. Why?
You need to have it needs to be exactly right. Like it needs to be even tension, exactly placed. And if you're twisting, you're just not going to get the pattern. So,
Okay. Who else has some questions here?
then it would be closer to quads. And if you think about it, you're never going to get quads to be able to sit to do this type of pattern because I don't know what it is about the stacking because it's so similar to quads, but you don't look anything like a column.
Right. Okay, what other techniques, like, so that you said that there's alternate duplet, and then, so I guess that this is with alternate size duplet.
Yeah, that's why it's alternate duplet because it's two sizes. So it's an alternate size duplet pack. So people usually just call it alternate duplet. There's just also regular duplet or doublet pack, and we could do something like that next. There's a really cute, well, see, a lot of things for just the standard doublet, I prefer to use links for because it uses fewer balloons. Even unless if I'm doing the rainbow for this, a lot of things that I need the curve for, unless if it structurally needs to be sounder because it's going to be bigger, I just prefer to do links because for me, they're faster. So for a lot of the same designs that you could do the alternate duplet or the duplet for. Duplet is best for murals though, just because you could get a lot of detail into it. So you could do it for walls and then you could put a mural into it or else the duplet pack murals. Yeah, there's a lot of cute things. I like square pack. I think that we should do maybe something. I would like to maybe do flowers next, just because we're going into spring and people are selling a lot of flowers this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something Easter.
Yeah. Who
But
else
we
has
have, in terms of technique, there's alternate duplet where it's the two sizes. There's duplet where it's the same size. There's square pack where they are made in quads, but it would end up being alternate sizes where one is bigger and then the other one is smaller. And that's nice because it gives you that nice flat front. And then there's flat pack as well, which is where it just ends up being skinny because it's like a butterfly quad where you do 2 5-inch with 2 bigger or 2 11-inch with 2 18-inch.
Erica, you must have a question, or is it just going perfectly over there?
I don't know about perfectly, but it's going. I'm trying to connect my last row. I had to like hide him while she was talking. So it's working.
Oh, okay. You've made a lot of progress.
And if anybody wants to post theirs in the community or ask for feedback if you're working on it, then feel free to post your questions in there and we could answer your questions as well as you work on this.
No questions? I mean, this one, guys, I barely got the whole thing undone. So I'm gonna have to start from scratch here and redo this whole thing. I'm anticipating this to take me hours to do, but I'll post my result once I have 2 kids who picked out these colors, so I can't have this rainbow not done. Thank you for the encouragement, Dominique. Okay, if there are no more questions, Alyssa is slammed today. As you know, she whipped in here at the very, squeaking in, and now she's got another install to do.
Yeah, it's a very full day, just and everything scheduled like last minute, so there was no way to plan, but sometimes that happens.
Okay, Dorothy, I'm so sorry. I know you inflated all your stuff, but the class is ending right now.
That's okay. She can watch the replay too, since the replay will be up in the community pretty quickly. And so that way, if anybody has questions, they're also able. Don't forget that you could go back, you could watch the replay, and then also ask us some more questions too if you're working on it and if you don't get it. So we're more than willing to help out.
Okay, so where would I find the replay?
in the class,
In school?
in school in the classroom section. So I know you did your
Classroom
prep.
section.
Did you have any
Yeah.
questions on any of that?
Mm, oh, I don't think so. I mean, I just made duplets of all the different colors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, shucks, I gotta get used to this time zone thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
well.
I'm going to say again that one of the reasons that some people like to do rubber bands is because rubber bands does give you the even tension, but I don't feel like it's ever as tight. I think that anybody who's going to be working on it, who really wants to sell them, work on it with the 260 method, but just it does take more practice because you just need to make sure that your tension is even throughout your entire duplet row, and then also that your tension is even throughout your entire when you're doing this zigzag weave to get them together, because having that even tension is just the most important part. And if the inside one isn't tight enough, like if you don't give that tug every single time before you pull it through, then what's going to happen is it's going to pull it out of shape when you're weaving them together. So you need to make sure that it really isn't going to move, that it's super, super tight.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think my microphone wasn't working earlier. I did have a question. I wanted to know the sizing. Was it the same as what was sent in the emails, like the 8, 7.5, 7? Okay. So even though the first two rows, the difference was like an inch, the larger row had like only a half an inch. It didn't
Correct.
really show that much of a big difference, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical. Like you'll notice it's usually the first row, sometimes depending how big you're making it, the first two rows are the inch difference, and then it goes down to a half an inch.
Okay.
And that's just because your curve is tighter on the inside than it is on the outside. So if you're looking
Okay.
at it, like this
Yeah.
is a tighter curve, whereas this is a looser curve.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's why we're going to end up having the difference in the pattern.
Okay. Thank you. It was great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Alyssa. I know you got to get off to your next install, so we really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and ask it in the community, okay?
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate it.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Until next time. Bye.
Everyone.